Tonight, I am both thrilled and honored to welcome to our virtual stage Caryn B. Davis, award-winning photographer, a journalist, and a best-selling author specializing in architectural, garden, and travel photography. Caryn's career has spanned the globe, taking her to more than 50 countries, and her images and articles have appeared in over 60 publications worldwide, including the New York Times, Town and Country, the Wall Street Journal, Fine Art Connoisseur, New Zealand Geographic, and others. Her first commissioned photography book, A Connecticut Christmas, celebrating the holiday in classic New England style, garnered high accolades in 15 newspapers and magazines nationwide. Caryn's second book, Connecticut Waters, is a tribute to Connecticut's maritime roots, both past and present. In conversation with Caryn this evening, we are so pleased to have with us Wick Griswold, the author of several history press books, including Connecticut River Shipbuilding. He is Emeritus Professor of Sociology, teaching sociology of the Connecticut River at the University of Hartford, and he will be teaching for Wesleyan's Lifelong Learning Program in May. Wick has written 5 books on the history of the Connecticut River and contributes regularly to Estuary magazine. He is also the Commodore of the Connecticut River Drifting Society. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to our featured guests, Caryn B. Davis and Wick Griswold. Take it away.
Thank you so much for having me. And Wick, thank you so much for being here with me tonight.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, Caryn.
So I'll just start with the cover shot. Now, this is the Mystic Whaler. It is a replica of a 19th century coasting schooner, and it sails out of New London. And it's such a beautiful boat, really it is. In order to get, whoops, I'm just going back one. So I worked with the captain, who I knew from Mystic Seaport, my days at Mystic Seaport. A lot of people have asked, how did you come up with this idea for this book? Actually, I didn't, the publisher did, but I think she knew about my boating background. I had worked 15 years for magazines, different boating magazines, and was the Connecticut photographer for several of them, and also worked at Mystic Seaport. So during my time there, I made many contacts and got involved in the boating world. So this is John Edgington. He's the captain, along with his partner, Pat Beck of the Mystic Whaler. They've lovingly worked on this boat because it's got a lot of wood and a lot of varnish. And John, I had the idea for the cover, and John went around several times when the light was pretty perfect, I'd have to say. So I was very lucky. And I went out in a chase boat, which is how I got that shot. And we went around and around and around. You can go out on the Mystic Whaler for day sails, evening sails, lobster sails, and overnight sails. And if you do the longer trips, he'll incorporate sail education. But you can see this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous boat. And this is just, you know, when I started the book, I put in a lot of different chapters I didn't want it just to be about yachting and sailing and a book about boating. I wanted it to encompass, you know, the recreational aspect, the educational aspect, and the historical aspect of how we use our waterways and how it shaped our culture as a state. So this is Poets Lounge. This is a chapter on coasting and cruising and how you can get out on the water. And if you go out in Poets Lounge out of Noank, Darren Keach, who is the captain, will also serenade you. He's an accomplished musician. And this boat can be rented, you know, for families or friends. I don't know what that green thing is. I don't know if you can see that, so sorry about that. This boat is called Symphony, and it's a replica. It's reputedly, it was built for the King of Sweden in 1936. And I sailed on this boat in, I think it was around 1997, going from Maine to Nova Scotia. I sailed with this scrubby guy and this scrubby guy, who now is the father of 2 kids who sail on the boat. And I did want to mention, I'm showing you wooden boats just to start because they're really important. They're the love and maintenance and care it takes and upkeep of these boats. It's financially, it's very expensive. It's very time consuming. They're priceless artifacts in many ways because there's so few of them left. And he was telling me that a lot of young people just have no interest in doing that anymore. So who knows how long they're going to be around. So this is Symphony and this is Race Rock. And I'm just showing you another one. I just love them. This is Annie Laurie. She's a 19. I'm cheating here at my notes. She's a 1929 commuter lot. And in her heyday, this is how wealthy businessmen would commute from Long Island to Manhattan, and they would get dressed on the boat. They would eat their breakfast. They would have their newspaper. They would summer out on Long Island, and by the time they arrived in Manhattan, they were all set to go. This boat does have a pipe organ on it that is totally playable, and she's just a beauty, you can see. And that cat is OC, otherwise known as Orange Cat. And that's the interior. And she's also been restored. So maritime education, if you want to get out on the water and you want to learn about the Connecticut River specifically, the geology, the ecology, and about the wildlife there, you can go out on the River Quest and also the Adventure. And they take you out Wick, you can jump in on this. This is what the swallows do every year in September. If you want to talk about that.
Yes, there's a huge murmuration of swallows where literally millions of them in sync rise up and rise and drop down, and it's a wonderful piece of nature. I'm doing one of my Wesleyan classes is aboard the River Quest this year.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm excited for that. But the Connecticut River, especially the Connecticut River estuary, is such a marvelous part of the world. It's been deemed one of the last great places on earth by several organizations, and you can paddle it, you can row it, you can sail on it, you can chug up and down in a motorboat, and you have the opportunity to be in such a marvelous environmental space that literally there's nothing quite like it in the whole world.
And just to mention, the River Quest also does eagle watches in the winter, so they do run all year round. And all those shots I just showed you, I just got really lucky that night. And this was the light, nothing was doctored. This is the Amistad, and she has a rich history, as we know, and they teach the story of Amistad to school groups and whoever else comes aboard. Now, this is a case where, I wasn't a fan of the lighting this day. It's really never good to shoot at midday in bright sunlight, but this is all that I was able to get. And the crew of the Amistad was so gracious. They took me out in a dinghy. I went around and around in this boat. I can't tell you how many times. And I kept saying, can you go around one more time? And they always said yes. So this is some of the images I got that day, where they're teaching kids not only about sail training, but about the history of this boat. And
it's such an important part of Connecticut's history and our country's history. It really deserves to be taught as much as it can. And what more ideal classroom could possibly be than the Amistad itself?
Right. This is a replica. It was built at Mystic Seaport.
Yep.
And there she is. So we can talk a little bit about this.
about my buddy Dan or Danny.
Yeah, this is Danny Russell. He's one of the last shad fishermen on the Connecticut River, and I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to meet him. I think this is like 4:30 a.m. Very early.
Well, he let you sleep in that day, because usually when I go out with him, it's midnight or 11:30, depending on what the tide's doing. And some of the saddest words that can be said, I think, are among the last shad fishermen on the Connecticut River, because it's something that humans have been doing for literally thousands and thousands of years, you know, from Paleolithic times till now. The Connecticut River has had a shad run every spring, and it's, you know, fed people over the winter with dried salted shad. It served as fertilizer for plants, for the corn and the beans and the squash, and it's been a tradition since the Europeans showed up, you know, in colonial times. And except for an outboard engine, Danny still fishes essentially the same way they did in the 18th century. And it's always been a thrill to me to go out with him at night and partake of that process. And here you have the Shad Festival at the Connecticut River Museum, where they plank the shad in the traditional way of the indigenous people. And I think that there's no more delicious way to enjoy it, and it's so nice that they're able to carry on that tradition. I've tried on several occasions to develop programs where young people, high school people, can learn shad fishing, the art of shad fishing. Unfortunately, it occurs late at night, so it interfered with their schoolwork. And my idea wasn't a tremendous success, but the kids that got to do it absolutely loved it. I hope that in some fashion that you know, the commercial shad fishery will be able to continue.
Yeah.
Because it's only down to 4 or 5 guys now, and it's a lot of work, and it's only seasonal.
So this is also, we have not a large fishing industry, but a really pronounced one, because this is not Stonington, but I do know that the fleet in Stonington is the last commercial fishing fleet in the state. And this is Norm Bloom and Sons. They have they're oyster farmers, and they've been doing this since the 1940s. And they're also have another branch now. This is out of Norwalk, out of Noank, and it's called Copp's Island Oysters.
Yes.
But I went out with these guys really early in the morning. But you can, you know, it's worth it because the light is just so exquisite. Sure. And they were very gracious about, again, getting me shots and giving me time to do what I need to do.
That's a beautiful photograph. You know, it's sort of interesting that you mentioned Stonington, because when I was a young fellow, I worked on Stonington draggers. Oh. And it's so much of your book has encapsulated so much of my life that every time I go through it, I just get these frissons of memories, and thank you again and again and again for for making it more real.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope that that is the sentiment I was trying to get across, and what I chose for the chapters. This is a chapter on boat building. This, of course, is Mystic Seaport, and they have this amazing state-of-the-art lift that has enabled them to do major restorations of huge ships. They do their own. This is a Charles Morgan. It's a whale ship. that was decommissioned in 1941 and left to rot. And then she was restored by the museum. And then, you know, they've been working on her all this time. Here they're replanking her, and that's my cat. She has to go away. And you can see them working on this boat because they sailed her a couple of years ago. Can't remember exactly when, but here she is under sail, and she stopped in all the ports of call where she had gone whaling on the East Coast, like in New Bedford, which was where she was built, Stellwagen Reef, where there are tons of whales. And one of the museum staff got a beautiful photograph of a whale's tail and this boat, as if they were saying, okay, peace now, because it was a whaling ship.
Right.
But we also have boat builders, a lot we have around the Mystic area that are not related to the museum at all. And this is Tom Townsend. He is working on a lobster boat that he then, this is how he gets it in the water. He had it go from his shop to the marina. And then there she is, just a beautiful restored lobster boat now for recreation. And this is Dr. Ballard. There's a chapter on salty dogs, people who have dedicated their life to the sea. Of course, he's credited with raising the Titanic, but he's done so much more in terms of maritime education. I think his last mission, he was working with National Geographic trying to find Amelia Earhart's plane. And funny enough, Amelia Earhart got married in Noe, and there's a little plaque on the general store. So I'm going to let you talk about this guy here.
Well, my hero in big capital letters. Stephen Jones is the man that literally changed my life. In 1972, he gave my cousin and me, my mom gave my cousin and me a copy of a book he had written called Drifting. And in my sense, it's the best book ever written in Connecticut. And it provided us with a life ethos, right? It provided us with a way of looking at human beings, of looking at boats, of looking at water, of looking at nature, of looking at ourselves. And Stephen Jones is the quintessential sailor writer, right? He's written some 20 books. He owns a publishing company. It's been my really, really great fortune and blessing to become good friends with him, and we communicate almost on a daily basis, and it's one of the most important aspects of my life. And he has the West Mystic Wooden Boatyard.
That's where this was.
Yeah, over here.
He collects boat bits and whatever is left over from boats and old boats, anything. He doesn't get rid of anything.
Oh, right. You'd be walking around and say, oh yeah, well, there's the wheel off of Teddy Roosevelt's, yacht. And there's the rudder off of the African Queen. And every walk through his boatyard is a walk through a museum. But I mean, the man is brilliant. The man is an extraordinary writer, and the man has literally a heart of gold. The man is a good man, and I am blessed to have him as a mentor. I'm blessed to have him as a friend. If you're ever in West Mystic, wander over at his boatyard. If he doesn't kick you out, you'll have a great time.
Right, that's true. So this is Tom Whitten, and Tom is a 3-time America's Cup winner. He's been inducted into the America's Cup Hall of Fame, the Sailing Hall of Fame. He's quite the salty dog, and he also is head of North Sails, which is the largest sail maker in the world, and they're actually headquartered in Milford, Connecticut. So here's a photo of a sail in his shop that they made this sail, or they also repair them. for people who have boats, but also people who race boats and are involved in boating in a more professional capacity. This is Roger Hambage. He is a model maker, and he used to work at Mystic Seaport, so his models are exact and the detail is outstanding. He actually did a lot of the restoration. I believe he was the lead shipwright on the restoration of the Morgan. So even though it's small, it's exactly as the ship would be. And this is a fishing schooner. I believe it's a Gloucester fishing schooner, but I'm showing you the amazing detail. So there is a chapter in the book on nautical arts, which I thought was important as well. And I don't want to give it all away, but if you buy the book, you'll see all the different disciplines that relate to nautical arts.
And you put so much into that book. You've put the culture into it. You put the food into it. You put the people into it. You put the material cultural into it. You did a heck of a job, Caryn.
Thank you. So some of you may have noticed this. This is called the Maggie P. She was actually a houseboat that during a storm landed on a beach in Fenwick, and she's been grandfathered in, so she's surrounded by all these very, very grand homes. And the family, she's been in the same family for I think 3 generations now. They love her. They only use her in the summer. The grandkids are there, the great grandkids are there. They can jump off the back right into the water, and it's just this really cute ramshackle place, but it's just great. It looks like a boat.
How cozy is that?
And this is you know, is this a houseboat or a boat house? This is a couple that live in Waterford, and they wanted their house designed as a boat. So they had the architect design and build it as such. And I went there to meet them. They were having a party, you know, with music right on the bow, and people were on the upper deck. I mean, it was just really, really great. And they're right on the Niantic River. And then this is inside the house. And this is also inside the house. So they really did make it look like a boat. And then to your point, Wick, there are so many snack shacks. I could have done just a book on snack shacks on the water. This is the Blue Oar in East Haddam, or actually it's Haddam, and you can get there by boat. It's a fun place to go. It's BYOB, and it looks more like the Caribbean, something you'd find in the Caribbean, because everything's really brightly colored, but you can get there by boat. This is
in by land too. You can get there by land.
Yes, that's right. True. And same with Ford's Lobster. It's in Knowing. And Knowing Harbor, if you haven't been there, is just the most beautiful harbor. There's hardly, aside from a couple of restaurants, there's absolutely no industry. It's untouched, and it looks just as it did when it was traditionally a fishing village. But there's Ford's over there, and this would be your view. And here's a family. They delivered to the boat. They're docked right there. This is Stowe's Seafood in West Haven, Connecticut. I showed to you because they're open year round, and they have all kinds of seafood in there. Lots and lots if you're a seafood lover like myself. And this is the Guilford Lobster Pound. I love it because I love the view. And also, they don't serve much. They serve lobster rolls, clam chowder, and hot dogs, I think. And that's about it. But you really don't need much more than that. So this is a Norwalk Aquarium, and I like it. They get a lot of kids from all over coming here. It's a huge aquarium. It's different than the Mystic Aquarium in that they don't have whales, and it's a lot bigger. But yeah, oh, and they have this great jellyfish display, which is fascinating, and live demonstrations. But then, you know, the Mystic Aquarium, although it's small, it's got whales. And when I was taking these photos, what really struck me was whenever a kid came over to the glass, the whales were so excited, and they really are interacting with the kid. That whale's not just pretending to look at the kid. He really is. And he's moving for the child and entertaining the child. It was really clear that that was what was going on communication wise. I could have sat there all day watching them. Then, you know, there's lots of things to do for fun all over Connecticut that are related to the water. This is the Naugatuck Duck Race, and that's a lot of ducks. And this is part of a festival that they have every year. Chester has a little duck race as well. They use the Paddock Brook, but this is still the Naugatuck River. And they don't pollute. They do catch them all. And this is a clam bake, and this is a really fun thing to do. So this book is part travel guide. You can open it up and find a lot of fun things to do and a lot of educational things to do if you have families. This is Sheffield Island, and the way that you get there is you take a ferry from next to the Norwalk Aquarium, and they'll take you, the Norwalk Seaport Association runs this event. They will take you out to this great lighthouse, and you can actually walk in the lighthouse, and then you have a clam bake, and then they'll take you back. And but bring a lot of bug spray because the bugs were vicious. I mean, really vicious. But it was okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, and I'm not saying it's uncomfortable, because it's a great thing to do. Avery Point, which is part of Connecticut, University of Connecticut. Every year they have this cardboard boat race, and it's for the students, but the public can go and watch. And I watched a lot of these people taking these cardboard boats out that they made, and some were very serious, you know, in the competition, but these people they were just having so much fun. And of course, the kid on the left got in, and seconds later, that's what happened to his boat. But you can't miss the joy on their faces and how much fun they're having. This is a witch paddle, sponsored by Adventure Sport and Mystic, where you can rent paddle boats. And these guys are right near the bridge, all dressed up, witches, warlocks. There's even a dog. This event gets a lot of watchers. It's a great thing to do. It's open to all who want to participate. And I'll let you talk about this one.
Well, actually, this is the culmination of Stephen Jones' book, Drifting, because we ultimately transformed it into an organization called the Connecticut River Drifting Society. And for the past 48 years, we have gone on our ritual drifts on equinoxes and solstices and whatever the heck we felt like it. And we've tried to, stay true to Stephen Jones' sensibilities about the water. And we've stayed true to having a heck of a good time out there too. So this was a little fall drift that we made down the back river out into Long Island Sound, and it's been a fun organization, and it's been a nice way to sustain some important friendships for decades and decades.
So just in case people don't know, that's Wick in the yellow shirt right there in front of the woman with the umbrella, and he is the official president of the Connecticut River Drifting Society.
Well, the official title is the Commodore, but in the CRDS we pronounce it Commodore because it's a lot more fitting.
That's great. So this is the Yale Harvard Regatta, and what's amazing to me about this, it's been going on since the 1800s on the Thames River in New London. And it's not it was not easy to find this site because it's behind houses, but they give you a right of way so you can watch the race. And I tagged along with this other very kind photographer who photographs the race for Yale. And this is how I was able to get this shot. And Yale did win that year. This is a beautiful fleet of boats on Alexander's Lake. It's a teeny weeny lake in Killingly, Connecticut. Sorry, Dayville, Connecticut. And these boats were designed by Ray Hunt. And I have to cheat and get my notes here because he designed these. These are the International 110s. He designed them in 1939. He also designed 12-meter America's Cup boat called Easterner, the Concordia Yawl, and the Boston Whaler, among many other classics. So that's what his claim to fame is. And these boats are just beautiful to watch them sail. And they're colorful too. So this fleet, it's the only 110 fleet in the state. And they race there every Sunday in July and August for fun. There's also the No-Ank Invitational race. And before each race, they give out chocolate chip cookies to all the participants. It's kind of an unofficial race of just wooden boat aficionados going out, and it's just a way for them to enjoy the water and enjoy showing off their beautiful boats, which again, they have lovingly restored. And so this is a chase boat giving out cookies, and they're fastened with clothespins. And this is the, and I'm going to cheat again and look at my notes. This is the New London, this is the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival, and it takes place on the New London waterfront. And it runs about 4 days. They have all kinds of vessels going there and a bunch of events and a little ferry that will take you around on the water so you can see the vessels. Some are docked at the New London Pier and some are docked at Fort Trumbull. And you can board them as well. And this was, again, I think this was 5 o'clock in the morning that I got up to do this. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like getting up early. But, you know, you have to, right? It's a labor of love. And so with everything that goes on in this state, so there was that, what we just saw, there was a chapter on festivals and celebrations. There was also a chapter on the fishing industry, as I mentioned. For this is in a chapter called Working Watercraft. And this was a lucky shot that I got, not necessarily for the book. I came years before. I was on the ferry and the submarine was coming in. So it's amazing to me. You know, we also build submarines here. So this I put into the book under the chapter Working Watercraft. And we also have another icon. We have the Coast Guard Museum. Sorry, not the Coast. We do have the Coast Guard Museum, but we also have the Coast Guard Academy here. And this is the Coast Guard Bark Eagle. I was lucky the year I was shooting, she came into port. She had been gone for 2 years. I tried very hard to coordinate getting her underway, but it was impossible because they never know. They have to drop sails way before they get to the river, and they never know what the conditions are going to be coming into port. So I tried and tried and tried, but there was really no way to stay in touch with the boat to get her under sail. That would have been amazing. But I did get to board and get some of these shots. And she is a training ship and a goodwill ship. And again, this is also in the chapter, this bit here on working watercraft, because these are pilot boats and they take and guide the larger vessels up and out of the river. So into port and out of port. These little tugboats, they're really powerful. We have a chapter on islands and lighthouses. And of course, this is the Thimble Islands. There was one woman several years ago, I think she bought 12 or 9 or 12 of the islands, but she's been selling them off recently. A lot of them have electricity, but not all of them. Some of them are summer residents, and Jane Pauley and Gary Trudeau actually own one. And I was told by some locals that when she was doing the Today Show, there would be a limousine waiting on land for her that would pick her up every day when she would come in by boat from her house, from the island, and drive her to Manhattan. And so
she needed one of those commuter boats.
Yeah, right. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? And again, this is the chapter on islands and lighthouses. This, I'm cheating again. I have to look what this is. I just can't remember absolutely everything in my book, but I believe this is Stamford Harbor Light.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 5 Mile Point Lighthouse at Lighthouse Point Park in New Haven. And it's really nice to see how people use this park, because it's well used and well loved, and a lot of people, you know, they can get out of the city and they can come here and hang out and have picnics and go swimming and just look at the rocks and pick up snails and do all kinds of stuff that you need to do. And this is Peck Light. This is in Norwalk. And I got this shot when I was going on the ferry to the Shetfield Island clam bake. But again, you can see all the stuff going on here. We got people boating, we have people fishing, we have people sailing, you know, they're all using the waterways in different ways. And this is the Connecticut River, and Wick, you can jump in. I just wanted to say it was really hard to get a shot that showed the majesty of the Connecticut River and its range. It's 400 miles, but of course we're only seeing what we see here in Connecticut, but it was hard to get a shot that showed how large and vast it is. So I did go up in an airplane, and I still feel it didn't really capture the majesty of it.
But you got a lot going on in there. You've got little coves, little inlets. You have a bar. You have the meander of the river. You have the early fall colors. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like you say, it's impossible to get all 410 miles.
It is.
But that was a good one, and this is a good one too. Because
right.
Was that the Polly?
That's the Becky. Well,
the Becky Thatcher.
Yeah.
One of those Mark Twain boats.
Right. And she is owned by the Essex Steam Train, and she goes out up and down the river. So when I couldn't really get what I wanted with the Connecticut River, I settled for these kinds of shots just to show the beauty of it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And this was early morning by the Goodspeed Opera House, and often you can see that the air is a little colder than the water, and it creates this mist. And this is a full moon in Essex Harbor,
yeah,
on the Connecticut River. And these are just some of my favorite shots I threw in at the end here. This is New London. I think the architecture of New London is just gorgeous. This is the view from my house, and I did not doctor this. Every night it looks like this. This is Rogers Lake. It's crazy, the sunsets that go on here. And this is another sunset on Rogers Lake. Unbelievable. And again, straight out of the camera. And that's Rogers Lake as well. And that's it.
That's it. Nicely done.
Thank you.
You know, I liked it so much that, you know, you had lakes, you had streams, you had rivers, you know. You had big water, you had little water, you had big boats, you had little boats, you had people, you had food, you know, you did a lot.
Yeah.
It was really sort of an eclectic but manageable format as far as I could tell.
Thank you so much.
And we
Well,
do
thank
have
you for
questions.
doing it.
We have questions coming in from our
Great.
audience. And Caryn, this one's for you. Tell us about the picture that you're most proud of.
Oh, this is such a hard question. I guess it would be the cover. I just love the way, I like it because it looks like an antique. You have this antique vessel, you have this old lighthouse, and I like that there's a little bit of red in both. They just kind of match each other color-wise, but then it's also a great shot because of what's going on in it.
Okay. And Wick, why is shad fishing done in the dark?
Well, shad fishing is done in the dark because the shad can see the net when it's daylight.
Ooh, clever shad.
Yeah, so what happens is that the best fishing is done at night, and the net drifts with the tide. It's drift fishing, and the shad can't see the net, and as a result, they turn into some of the most delectable meals you could ever imagine in Connecticut. If you haven't had the opportunity to have some fresh Connecticut River shad, by all means, please try it, because it's not going to be around that much longer. And it is truly one of life's great pleasures.
Well, on that note, do either of you have a favorite food hut that you can access by water on the river?
I think the Blue Oar is the only one on the river. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be certainly my guess, my pick. There's one up in East Hartford, I believe, but it's more of a hoot and holler beer hall. But for a tasty meal that you can arrive by boat on the river, I would strongly suggest the Blue Oar.
All right. Caryn, another one for you. What sparked your love of architecture and photography? Is there a particular place or person that inspired your work?
Traveling inspired my love of architecture. And what I love about architecture is you can learn a lot about a town or a moment in time or history, or like an artist such as Gaudi. You know, it really informs you about the culture. And I've always been fascinated by the way that people live in other places. So that led me to traveling. And I think that's why I really enjoy architecture, because there's so much information there.
Are there any winter scenes in this book of the Connecticut River? I remember times when the river would freeze over.
Not of the Connecticut River, but the Housatonic River and the Farmington River are in the book with winter scenes. And the Housatonic, it's the Cornwall Bridge. And I think the Farmington River is the old axe warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the organization Save the Sound is still active?
I don't, and I haven't heard of them either. Do you know, Wick?
Yes, I still get stuff from Save the Sound.
Oh, great!
And there's a couple of 3 organizations that are working to do environmental stuff, and as far as I know, Save the Sound is still sending me emails every 2nd or 3rd week.
Wick, another question for you that just came in. Why are there so few shad fishermen these days?
Because the kids don't want to do it anymore, essentially. It requires getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning and being outdoors in very, very damp, cold conditions, and the season only lasts from April to June, and back in Shad days, when there were hundreds of people doing it, they'd be doing other things. They'd be, putting in their plants for the summer. They'd be building a boat. They'd be building a house. They'd be, doing this, doing that. And that multitasking is sort of long gone. And the kids.
Aren't the fish declining too? There's not as many fish anymore.
Actually, it goes up and down. The past couple of years, the shad numbers were up, but the fact that there's more and more striped bass, which is a predator for them, tends to put it down. The pollution, of course, doesn't do it much good. But there was a time when the numbers were really low, and they seem to have been, making a bit of a comeback. And now that they're making fish swim around at some of the dams up in Massachusetts, that it's becoming a lot easier for the shad to get back to where they really need to be to spawn. So, hopefully the fish will be there, and we can, figure out a way to keep a population of people fishing for it, because it's just so delicious, and it's such an important part of our history. I mean, the shad was one of the primary food that General Washington's army subsisted on in Valley Forge. So they sometimes call it the founding fish, just for that reason. And the indigenous people had a beautiful imagery, a beautiful mythology, that every spring the shad spirit would fly down to the Gulf of Mexico and sing the shad back up the Connecticut River. So they had sort of this, sacred magical energy to them that not only gave energy to humans, but since they were fertilizers, they gave energy to plants, and it was this beautiful cycle of life. So, I'd hate to see it go. If I wasn't such an antique, I'd probably be out there trying to start a little shad fishery. But again, it's just a short season, just April to June. But hopefully some people will carry it on.
Another interesting question: has the pandemic affected your ability, Caryn, to take these photographs? Seems like it wouldn't have changed since they are outdoors, but I am curious.
The book was completed last year. It was completed in 2019 and ready to go in 2020. So I didn't actually shoot during the pandemic, but I did go back and get a boat builder, which I'm glad that I was able to get, because I had forgotten about him and he was very important to the book. But the answer is no, because I wasn't shooting the book during the pandemic.
Okay. Is there another book in the works for you? And what might the subject be? Can you tell us?
Tell you the subject there. Oh. I have an idea. I'm waiting to hear, but I'm going to work on promoting this book first. It's a lot of work goes into a book. So you want to make sure that people know about it and you can get it out there.
And you're marrying a lot of your expertise and talents into these books as both a photographer and a writer. Is that a challenge to marry the two together? What's that process like for you?
Well, actually, Eric Lehman wrote this book, and I do write. I write articles, but what I did do for him was I collected a lot of information, and that was, that's good that I have these skills as a writer, and I know, and I've written articles, so I know what interesting tidbits should go into the book. So I gathered a lot of research information for him, and some of the things in the book I had written about, like the Maggie P. I'm totally drawing a blank, but there are about 4 or 5. Oh, the nautical arts workshop. So there are a lot of things in the book I had done articles on. So I passed those along as well. But I think it would be really hard to do both. And I don't think I could have done both in a year.
Okay. Do you have a favorite or a least favorite project in your career in this book, a particular subject that you worked on that really drew you in?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Meaning, what is my least favorite project I've done, or my favorite?
Or I guess your biggest challenge as a photographer?
Well, with this book, the biggest challenge was finding chase boats and getting them and the subject at the right time of day and coordinating that and hoping that when you go out, the light was perfect. So for the cover shot, we had gorgeous, gorgeous light. And right at the moment that he hit that lighthouse, the sun went behind a cloud and it was not shining through. And he couldn't go around again because he had a lobster cruise on there with passengers, and that was the last pass he could make. So that kind of thing happens all the time. And you're just sitting there like, I can't believe this. But that's why the shot of him leaving was, you could really see the light coming through the sails. And that's what I would have had if the sun didn't dip behind the cloud.
Do you get seasick at all?
I got seasick in the North Atlantic when I was on that boat, Symphony. And the key is you really should eat, even though that's contrary. And the captain told me to steer the boat and watch the horizon, and that really straightened me out.
Do you agree, Wick?
I agree. Watch the horizon.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's key, you know, and eating whenever possible.
Yeah.
And staying above decks. Do not go below.
Right.
Well, this hour just flew on by. Caryn, this is such a stunning addition to your growing book collection now. And we're so incredibly thrilled that you were able to be with us tonight. With you as well. Thank you both.
Thank you, Dana and Abby.
Well, thank you. Yes. So good to see you both. Good, Caryn, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And good luck with your book.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to give it to people.
Great.
It's such a perfect gift to give, a housewarming gift, a table book to have out, whether you live in Connecticut or not. I mean, this is just a little snippet of the beautiful photography that Caryn displays in this book, Connecticut Waters, which the actual copies are signed. It is not just a book plate. The books are signed and available now while supplies last, both online and in the store. Perfect. So grab your copy while you can. And thank you all. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, as always, for supporting your local independent bookstores. It means the world to us. And happy reading. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy yours. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.